He is one of the original Anunnaki, or certainly extraterrestrial human hybrid.
Over 1 million years ago, an ancient race of powerful gods, known as the Anunnaki, descended upon Earth. With their advanced wisdom and technology, they set out to create the perfect slaves for themselves to solve their problems. The dying quest of these celestial beings led to the creation of humanity. Join us as we reveal the terrifying truth about the gods from Planet Nibiru and how they created man in their own image. The desperate search for the land of gold. The Anunnaki were advanced extraterrestrials from another planet. These celestial beings faced environmental crises on their planet, and the major key to their survival was gold. Unfortunately for them, what they needed to survive was very scarce to find on their planet. So they came to Earth and made use of the ancient humans to mine the precious metal for them, to save their world. Around 450,000 years ago, the Anunnaki arrived on Earth, not as benevolent beings to help humans, but as exploiters, to use men for their own benefit. With their knowledge of the abundance of gold on the planet Earth, these supernatural figures genetically engineered a human slave trade to mine gold. But from which planet did these celestial beings come from? Based on thorough scientific research, Anunnaki's home planet is often referred to as the 12th planet, or Planet X. This stellar sphere is said to have existed beyond our solar system. However, for general and formal knowledge, it is corroborated by an ancient tablet and confirmed by NASA as Planet 9. Further, this distant world was called Planet Nibiru by the ancient Sumerians and has remained hidden until recently, where its existence remains a puzzle. Interestingly, for the historical record, Nibiru became intertwined with the human world in a way that altered the course of both worlds. Let's delve into this much deeper. What really happened on Planet Nibiru that prompted their sudden trajectory to the Earth? Long ago, around 50,000 years ago, a young and ambitious king named Anu won a struggle for power against his predecessor, King Alalu. During this time, the celestial orb was facing a massive environmental disaster that was caused by volcanic eruptions, discharging ash and toxic gases into the atmosphere. This problem took over the entire planet, resulting in a rapid deterioration of the ozone layer while rendering the atmosphere thick and impenetrable to sunlight. In turn, it caused the temperatures to drop, the oceans to dry, and plant life to wither. To overcome this calamity, the Anunnaki were faced with the task of finding a way to deliver their planet from extinction, hence their quest to find gold to survive. Nibiru's conditions continue to deteriorate drastically due to industrial pollution, and because of this, Anu was tasked by the Council to lead the planet through the crisis. Notably, despite their advanced technology, the series of unexpected volcanic eruptions caught the Anunnaki off guard, leaving them in a dire situation that requires urgent attention on the lookout for survival. As the Nibiru's recyclers could not keep up with the great amounts of ash and toxic gas, resulting in the dire collapse of the planet's ozone layer, the Anunnaki, with their long lifespans, found themselves in the knowledge that they would have to endure generations of environmental hell if nothing was done to fight it. Significantly, the Anunnaki once flourished, and landscapes became lifeless husks, ruined by the failing ecosystem on Nibiru. While they were struggling to find a solution to the problem, the Anunnaki's great minds came together. Driven by their desperation, they delved into their knowledge and resources, trying all their best to save their dying planet. Fortunately, in what seems like a moment of revelation, the scientists, after poring over their ancient texts and conducting several experiments, discovered the potential of gold to absorb and reflect the harmful radiation from their sun. This discovery provides a ray of hope for the Anunnaki and offers the chance to stabilize their atmosphere, although they knew it would require extensive effort and time. To make it easily achievable for them, these supernatural beings made a bold plan, which is to search the solar system for planets that are very rich in gold. When they found these orbits, they would mine the gold and take the precious metals into Nibiru's planet. That was the idea, and without wasting time, they ventured into exploring the surrounding areas around them to acquire the valuables. However, rather unfortunately, the Anunnaki's situation grew increasingly worse as their explorers returned empty-handed from time to time in each passing day. The explorers traveled the inner solar system, but found nothing but volcanic rock and toxic gas, which are not in any way useful to them. Despite their everyday disappointments, they never stopped their search. On a fateful day, one of the explorers discovered a new world that has gold and other valuable resources within its orbit in abundance. As a matter of urgency, an emergency and critical council meeting was called for. Among them was Enlil, who happens to be Anu's son. He came up with his suggestion for the preferable solution, claiming to know how they could save the planet. With his confident assurance, he was given the chance to share his ideas, and he delivered the news about how an explorer had detected a planet that was called Kai, but later known as the Earth. According to the data obtained, the planet, which was very close to the yellow star, was rich in gold, had liquid water, and had a protective magnetic field that shielded it from the radiation killing the Nibiru planet. With this information, upon realizing that the fate of the Anunnaki and possibly the entire solar system rests on this data, they decided to explore the planet Earth, placing all their hopes in the course. Although Nibiru was also in orbit around the star, Earth's rapid orbit contrasted with Nibiru's. Based on astronomical evolution, it takes 3,600 Earth years to complete one revolution around the Sun. However, seeing planet Earth as the potential ideal place to solve their problems, Anu called for immediate action to be taken, not minding the perilous journey. To Anu, it is going to be a dangerous trajectory, but time is also desperate for them at the moment, hence their need to act fast. As the Anunnaki are fully prepared to depart, Enlil added another caution as a show of concern, which is a potentially risky factor in their plan. He educated them about how Earth is already filled and inhabited by intelligent life, the creatures, the humans. He revealed to others how the Earth creatures, even though shorter than they are, had physical similarities, just like the Anunnaki. Their features also include 2 arms, 2 legs, and facial features. This suggests that they have a common ancestry with the creatures on Earth. But a distinct factor among these similar factors is the larger body, larger eyes, and larger skulls, which the Anunnaki had grown into due to their home planet's weaker gravity. Now, as these celestial beings are preparing to embark on their mission, they are now faced with an ethical dilemma, which is how they would need to treat the intelligent beings who have already inhabited the planet Earth. As the leader, Anu became very concerned about the potential dangers posed by humans to them, and to know more about them, he inquired about their behavior and their technology. He was rather informed of how primitive and violent humans are. He was also told about how the Earth's inhabitants have no access to gold, as they don't even have the technology to discover the valuable metal. Humans, as of then, have no technology other than wood and stone. With this information, Anu perceived how dangerous humans would be and how intelligent beings would be a great threat to them, even though they are just a few in number. On this note, they decided to use Ejiji to guard them on their journey. Who are the Ejiji? The Ejiji are the race of slaves who serve the Anunnaki in all things, from operating the factories to maintaining order. The Ejiji are thereby seen as the shield against the primitive but yet violent humans who were unaware of the gold in their possession, talk less of knowing its significance, and who could later stand in their way and be dangerous in their large numbers. Probably it can be accepted that the implications of using the Ejiji in this manner give insights into how vast and reliable Anunnaki's technology is. This could possibly drive their beliefs about being superior to any and every other race. In all that matters, the Anunnaki Council, confident in their superiority and ability to manage and control Earth's native population, concluded their decision to embark on the journey with the Igigi. Embarking on the mission fully, a fleet of spaceships was used to transport a total of 300 Anunnaki and 600 Igigi, and they left Nibiru, heading for Earth. They made a brief stop at Mars, after which their fleet finally landed on Earth's surface. As they approached Earth, the sight was breathtaking for them. They were stunned by its vivid oceans, lush vegetation, and abundant life. Of course, the planet itself encompasses a beautiful, vibrant blue and green sky with swirling white clouds. Altogether, it was full of life in the sky, on the land, and in the sea below. While these celestial bodies explored the planet Earth, they made some groundbreaking innovations that have written the history of human existence. The shocking revelation about the creation of man. As the Anunnaki finally landed on Earth, they marveled at the beauty of the planet, but their sense of wonder was mingled with grief for their own dying planet. Not to be swayed by emotions, they received a renewed sense of determination, using the blissful atmosphere they found themselves in now to focus on their purpose of being on Earth. They were to secure the healing gold. Suitable landing sites were looked out for in the fertile region, and upon selection, they landed their ships and settled in the lush green plains, a region between the Euphrates and the Tigris rivers, later known as Mesopotamia. Immediately, they set to work, deploying the Igigi to start mining as soon as the ships landed. The Igigi shared a similar resemblance with the Anunnaki, who in turn bore some similarities to modern humans. However, they both possess distinct characteristics like elongated heads, while they are also between 12 and 15 feet tall and extremely strong. These features set them apart from Earth's inhabitants. The depictions of these elongated heads in ancient art provide a great hint at the possible influence of the presence of the Anunnaki and their slaves on early human civilization. Subject to the cruel demands of the Anunnaki, the Igigi toiled relentlessly to build the great city of Eridu within just 7 days, which is a nearly impossible time frame. This empire is expected to be ruled by Enki, Anu's son, to ensure that he has a stronghold on Earth. The workload was very grievous and excessive for the Igigi, but even at that, their obedience and strength ensured the completion of the city within the 7-day time frame given to them. This action demonstrated the ruthlessness of the Anunnaki's rule over the enslaved slaves. After the empire was completed, they started digging mines and mining gold too. They mined gold for a total of 150,000 years. The Igigi worked so hard producing a huge amount of gold for the Anunnaki's ship to be transported back to Nibiru. Seeing this great achievement, Enki, who had opposed the cruel treatment of the Igigi before, felt compelled to demand an increase in production. He was driven by the desperate situation of Nibiru and his fear of time running out. He demanded more output, and the slave masters used weapons like particle beams to force the Igigi to work faster and harder. Making matters worse, the magnificent celestial beings encouraged the slave masters to use harsh tactics, which included torture, causing unrest and discontent among the Igigi. This wicked act continued for a long time, until it was unbearable for them again. Having had enough of the maltreatment and hardships from the Anunnaki, the slaves got fed up with the way they were being subjugated and tortured without mercy. Later, they decided to rebel against their cruel masters. This protest began in action through Atrahasis, who was a famous leader among the Igigi. According to this figure, the slaves have suffered under the Anunnaki for too long. He revealed how they were born of the stars, but condemned to the dark. Atrahasis's words encouraged the rest of the slaves, and in their bid to stay independent, they turned their tools into weapons and fought bravely for their freedom. But unfortunately, they were defeated and re-enslaved. Furious by these rebellious acts, Enki's brother Enlil was furious, and he advocated for the execution of the Ajiji on charges of treason. However, Enki had compassion for them, seeing potential in their intelligence and strength. He recognized the long historical ties between the Anunnaki and the slaves for thousands of years. Not forgetting this, he appealed on their behalf while he was also seeking a path forward to ensure the stability of their society and the completion of the mission. Seeing the potential in the hominids in the forest, he came up with a bold idea. He considered the features of the apes, who have large brains, could walk on two legs, and can use simple tools, even though they are not intelligent enough to do the work needed by the Anunnaki. Regardless, he proposed that these awesome creatures could become intelligent enough to take over the labor-intensive tasks of the Ajiji, freeing them from their roles as slaves. The vision of Enki to produce a creature that was intelligent and strong enough to work the mines, but much smaller than the Ajiji, is to find the ones they can easily control and subdue. As a result, the apes in the forest, believed to be man's ancestors, were chosen to be genetically combined with the Anunnaki to create a new species. In their initial attempts to create these new species, the Anunnaki performed some experiments in their lab and produced some creatures that are monstrous, unable to create a perfect being. The genetic experiments created monsters, who still live today in ancient stories. Unfulfilled with this result, they modified their approach. They genetically spliced their DNA into a hominid female, allowing the embryo to develop naturally within her womb, rather than growing it in a lab. Less than a year later, this experiment worked successfully and resulted in the birth of a child, a boy who looked much like the Anunnaki rather than the apes. This represents the dawn of a new hybrid race, humanity, and the boy was named Adamu. Interestingly, this Adamu child is the same first man creation as we have in the biblical creation story. The etymology of the name, which means from the ground or earth. In Genesis, God made Adam in his own image, from the dust on the ground. However, with the same narrative, in ancient Sumerian, Akkadian, and Babylonian texts, the creation of man is described the same way man is created in the image of the god or gods, by mixing the blood of a god with the clay of the earth. More intriguing in this mythology is how the ancient Egyptians had a story of man being created by mixing the tear of a god with the clay of the earth. Whereas blood, even with a tear, contains DNA, while clay in these ancient writings doesn't mean actual clay. This mind-blowing revelation is not in any way confusing, nor is it based on a fallacy. It simply refers to all life on Earth and how the creation of man came to be. It is notable that every culture and religion has some variation of this story, but it is definitely not a coincidence. According to a book written by Dr. Ellis Silver about the jump in evolution, he claims in this book that humans are not from Earth. He revealed in his theory that humans were brought down to the planet Earth by aliens. But then, whether they were actually brought down or created here on the orbital surface, the theory says humans were genetically engineered using alien DNA. Further laying emphasis on his discovery, Dr. Silver claims that humans are not well suited to Earth's environment, while every other animal is. Human skin is highly sensitive to sunlight and ultraviolet radiation. That is why spending too much time in the sun leads to serious diseases, especially skin cancer. On the other hand, no animals get sunburned, nor do mammals have fur or thick skin. More so, fish scales and other bird feathers all offer protection from the sun. Other animals, such as pigs, elephants, and even reptiles, can also get burned, but they protect themselves by rolling around in mud or changing their skin. In other ways, humans are more susceptible to illness, disease, and birth disorders than other animals. Obviously, the Anunnaki have shaped a new species from the universe. But what happens when these creatures begin to ask questions, request independence, and try to take over the planet? The dawn of a new era. Significantly, the Anunnaki were very human-like, but the major difference is in the body physique. In an actual sense, the celestial beings were about 2 times as tall as humans. Their size ranges from 12 to 15 feet. This indicates their evolution on a planet with lower gravity than Earth. Based on Dr. Ellis Silver's book, he presents a very compelling case, backed up by science. It is believed that Homo sapiens first emerged about 300,000 years ago. This is exactly the time of the Igigi rebellion. Back to the creation of the first man, Adamu, the Anunnaki also created a female Hiva so they could procreate on their own. After then, the Anunnaki guided this new race for a few hundred years, and the population grew to thousands. Later, they taught the humans all the skills they needed to maintain the city, build homes, plant, and harvest crops. The most important thing, however, is that these celestial beings taught humans the skills to mine gold. On a good note, the Anunnaki were so pleased with their creation that they allowed humans to visit their sacred garden, Eden. Of course you heard it right, it is the same garden as Eden in the Bible. According to ancient Sumerian writing, this narrative is also right and correct. There is a lot of the Anunnaki story in every major religion in the world. But the major problem comes when humans don't resemble the apes in any way at all. Humans rather looked pretty much like Anunnaki, but smaller than they are. More so, their women are also beautiful. This beauty spells trouble at times. What trouble is caused? It happens that one of these women caught the eye of Enki, the Anunnaki, ruler of the great city of Eridu. Yet relationships between Anunnaki, Igigi, and humans were strictly forbidden. They consider it rude of them to party with humans, considering them merely their employees. Still, in what seems unusual, Enki broke the law and had a relationship with a human woman. This relationship then gave birth to a child named Agapa. It is important to note that until now, humans were very simple, obedient beings who were intelligent enough to do the work the Anunnaki needed. It was the birth of Adapa that finally changed the course of the event. Part human and part Anunnaki, he was extremely intelligent. As he grew up to become a man on his own, he also married a woman named Atiti. Hence, from the family of Adapa, began a new line of highly intelligent humans, and they started asking questions while they inherited the Anunnaki's design and desire for gold and power. Not long after, another bigger problem ensued in the empire. A new trait emerged in this new line of intelligent humans. This trait shaped the future of our entire species, and the new trait was violence. With this development, in a few years, the first generation of submissive humans would be gone. The new humans had no interest in mating, but then, against the orders of the Anunnaki, these intelligent, violent humans procreated a lot, and quite soon, the city of Eridu was overrun until it could no longer sustain the human population. Tragically, the people began to kill one another for food. The violence got so out of control that Enlil became very annoyed by the constant disturbance of humans. He then decided to lessen the population by sending a series of plagues. He first brought drought to the land, then pestilence, and later famine. Battling with these plagues, the humans appealed to the god who made them, Enki, after which he graciously eased their suffering and returned the earth to its natural state. Eventually, the Anunnaki had enough gold to heal their planet, while the humans had become a nuisance. The Anunnaki then cast the people out of Eden and out of the city of Eridu. From there, the human race spread around the world. Nonetheless, not all humans left. Some stayed and further developed relationships with several Anunnaki. The children born of these relationships were the ones being referred to as the extremely powerful demigods. Legendary figures like Gilgamesh, Samson, Hercules, and Perseus were the offspring of these Anunnaki human unions. Likewise, some humans also had relationships with the Igigi, but unfortunately, these unions did not produce heroes. Rather, they produced monsters. These offspring, known as giants, were the ones called the Nephilim, who were cruel and brutal. They tormented and tortured humans and in many cases fed on them. How does the Anunnaki's enlightenment in technology pave the way for the riches of the universe? The cradle of civilization. Predating the pyramids and Stonehenge and revolutionizing agriculture, transportation, and communication, Sumer became the cradle of civilization. It was the Sumerians who invented the world's first writing system, the wheel, sailboat, and plow. These inventions allowed them to develop advanced irrigation systems to feed their farms. The Sumerians' inventions and innovations laid the foundation for later civilizations, making them an influential and pioneering civilization in human history. The establishment of the world's first legal system, organizing their society into independent city-states, made Sumer a pioneer in human history and civilization. Also, they developed advanced mathematics and astronomy, creating number systems that are still in use today for telling time and measuring the angles of a circle. About 7,000 years ago, the Sumerian civilization was founded, while Homo sapiens appeared about 300,000 years ago. As can be clearly seen, it took millennia for human technology to progress from the invention of writing to the moon landing. But why did this explosion of progress happen so fast? Before Sumer, modern man was around for approximately 225,000 years, but there was little technical advancement since then. Taking note of this fact prompts the question, as you might also be asking, why did technology not develop during this period of time? And why did it suddenly accelerate during the era of the Sumerians? According to ancient Sumerian texts, humanity's technological progress was hindered because humans were busy mining gold for the ancient god and not for their own benefits. This mining effort took up a large portion of humanity's time and resources, delaying technological progress and leaving humanity as primitive, gold-digging slaves. The uniqueness of gold as a valuable metal explains why it was so important to the Anunnaki gods, who deemed it necessary to traject to Earth and find more by using the men as their slaves so as to solve their own problems. In modern times, gold has become incredibly useful in numerous fields, including electronics, medicine, and data processing, which indicates that there may have been an extraterrestrial purpose for the gold mined by early humans. However, as attractive as gold seems, it was not of much practical use to ancient humans, raising the question as to why it was so highly prized by the gods and is still so valuable today. Looking at the efficiency of this valuable metal, gold particles have the remarkable property of cleaning the environment. This is done by facilitating chemical reactions that remove toxins from water and air. On this discovery, gold was not just the most valuable metal on Earth, but also in the entire solar system. What do you think about these gods and their exploits? Share your views with us in the comments section. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel to see more interesting videos. Thank you for watching.